Well, here we are. We made it. We made it through the first week, and we're on to the second week. So that's great. As I mentioned in my video last week, I think at the end of the week, I'm going to give you until Wednesday to get caught up. Okay, so if you're behind a bit, maybe your books came in late, you feel like you're just like, I'm overwhelmed. There's so much I'm trying to absorb, trying to get. Don't worry. Okay, I'm going to give you some extra time. One of the things that we will start to do, though, as of this Wednesday, okay, is you are going to be held to the due dates. Okay, so I'm not going to accept any late papers or any late assignments, any late posts after this Wednesday. Okay, so starting today, week 2, everything is due according to what's laid out in the course itself. Okay, if you're still kind of getting caught up in week 1, that's okay. You have until Wednesday of this week. All right. So I want to just kind of remind you of that. That's the first thing. Okay, so you've got the due dates. They're in there. They're due. Everything you need to know is there for you in the syllabus. Okay, so when you look at your participation, I want to say this again. Okay, so you've got these assignments, and attendance and participation is 15% of the grade. So the discussions, the critiques, the in-class summaries, online discussions, peer teaching, lectures, media, and activities all require your participation, right? This is not a passive course where you can simply come to class and sit in the back of the corner and be on your phone and not engage, right? You have to, if you want to get a desirable grade, the grade that you want, the best grade you can get, you have to engage in this class, because the only way that I will know that you are participating is if I see you actually completing the things that are assigned to you, right? It says absences should be reserved for emergencies. The beauty of an online class is there's really no absences. You just work from home, right? So even if you're sick, I mean, there's been times I've taught this class, I've had colds, I've had sinus infections, I've had, I think, strep throat, I've had sick kids, I've been off work. I mean, there's all these different things going on, and yet you can still participate because you don't actually have to come to class. You can do all of your assignments in your pajamas if you want, right? So, I'm sitting here and I've thrown a collared shirt on, at least for this video. Last video I did as well. I mean, if I were to be in class, I would dress up, right? But the reality is that here we are, we're in our homes, right? So I'm in our spare room here in my house. I'm an adjunct professor. I don't have an office on campus. The beauty of teaching online, especially in a class like this, where I've been, doing online instruction from an adjunct standpoint at APU for the last 8 years, is that it doesn't matter where I live, right? So I don't live in the city of Azusa. I live, in a different, right at the edge of LA County. So I'm, not that I couldn't drive there, but there's a convenience factor. So I know a number of you are students that are not even in Azusa. You're taking courses from Azusa Pacific, but you're not living in Azusa. You may be in San Diego, maybe in the high desert, maybe in San Bernardino, and so forth, right? So that's the beauty of online education. So when we talk about absences, there's really not any absence that could take place because you just have to complete things by a certain due date, okay? So make up work for necessary absence we can discuss, but really that's not an issue. If something happens, you get super sick and you're out of commission, you're in the hospital, that's one thing. I had a student one time said, I can't complete the assignment on time, I'm going to be in Disneyland. Okay, I mean, have fun at Disneyland, but that's not an excuse. Like I said, I'm glad, thanks for being honest, but you're in a class right now. So Disneyland is not an excusable reason to not complete the assignment. Sickness absolutely is, right? So if it's a legitimate sickness, and if you're claiming sickness, I would probably ask for a doctor's note, right? I'm going to need to see some sort of a scanned or emailed or a picture of some sort that shows that you actually were sick, you were in the hospital, because this is a class that I kid you not, you've already done some of these courses, 8 weeks, they fly by. And if you don't do things when the assignment is due, you will get it left behind. And I don't want to see that happen to any of you, right? So integrity, character, honesty is huge with me, and I would hope and expect the same thing from you, okay? So at the end of the semester, you will give yourself an overall participation grade, okay, and you'll submit a no more than 1 paragraph statement justifying why you think you deserve the score that you do, right? So if you did a good job, I think you could probably say I did a good job and I deserve, an 8. If I think you did a lousy job, and you said I deserve a 10, I'm probably going to give you a 6, right? So, you may give yourself a score, and you will, but just because you say one thing doesn't mean that that's what the actual score is going to be. I will then give you the final score on that. Okay, so we have a good amount of reading that we'll do in this semester. We've got these 2 books, as you've already seen. Look in the syllabus to see what's assigned. If you have any questions on that, there's some great websites, some great resources. You're going to read chapters 2 and 3 in Smith today, and you will be starting into Brooks in session 4. Okay, so we'll get into Brooks in session 4, and then we'll read through chapter 10. And then finish out with Ecclesiastes toward the end, right? So you've got some videos you'll watch and different things. So everything that you need to know about this course, it's clearly laid out for you, right? So one thing I did want to mention to you, if you go down to, looks like, I'm looking at the syllabus right now. Let's see, page 7, right at the very bottom, assignment number 7, Leadership Values and Virtues final paper. Okay, so this for this paper, craft a well-written 6 to 8 page essay comparing and contrasting the insights of one classic leadership text. Okay, so it could be something from Peter Drucker, Warren Bennis, Robert Greenleaf, James McGregor Burns, Edgar Schein, Robert Quinn, Kim Cameron, with the readings from Brooks and Smith. Okay, so when I say classic text, okay, you have likely read some classic texts, okay? Maybe not the entirety of the book, and I'm not asking for you to read the entirety of another book, but something that's classic, right? Something, James McGregor Burns is one of the giants in this leadership space. Peter Drucker was really kind of the godfather, the grandfather, the father figure, whatever you want to call that, of modern day management. I actually happen to work at the Drucker School of Management full time. And if you go to any graduate school of business, you are going to hear people quoting Peter Drucker all of the time. When you get into a classic leadership text, Warren Bennis is really that guy, right? He's really this classic. I mean, he is like the epitome of all things leadership. He is, or I should say was, and still is, although he's no longer alive, considered to be the modern day kind of grandfather of leadership studies. McGregor Burns kind of was the forerunner to that. And then Robert Greenleaf, you're probably familiar with his work in servant leadership. So maybe there's been some books that you have read, and you need to then incorporate what it is that you've studied from them. Okay, so be sure to include quotes and page numbers from a classic text. When you give an insight, offer a quote, or share an idea that belongs to the author, right? So if you're thinking about, for instance, let's see, eulogy, right? So Warren Bennis has written a book on, it used to be called, I'm drawing a blank on it, but basically Leadership for a Lifetime. It used to be called something else with the word geezer in it. That's why I was trying to think of that. But Leadership for a Lifetime. And so you're going to think about that. So what do you want your life from a leadership standpoint to represent? So there's some really great connections that you could find in that. Okay, a well-written paper will include no less than 8 substantive in-text citations that add to the argument being made in the paper. Make sure to include a properly formatted cover page, so on and so forth, right? So this is APA. Make sure that it is written properly. Okay, if you scroll up, there's a couple of different ways you can find one of these classic texts. Okay, if you scroll up, you may want to consider some of the suggested readings. So you might want to look at, Chittister, Gene Chittister wrote a great book called Wisdom Distilled from the Daily, Living the Rule of St. Benedict. That's an interesting take, right? It's not leadership specifically. However, I think it is very important. Or the 10 Virtues of Outstanding Leaders, Leadership and Character. But if you're really interested to know about these names that are included, right, the Bennises and the Druckers, and you want a book, I will suggest a book to you. I wouldn't necessarily buy the book, although I'm a book junkie, and so you may want to. You can get one of these texts for $10, buy it used or something like that. So send me an email. In fact, what I'll do, just as I had gotten a few questions from some students about what is this classic leadership text, what I will do, I will put together a list and send it out to you sometime this week as far as the classic leadership text that you might want to choose from. Okay, so you can probably get them at the local library. You could buy them on Amazon if you wanted to. They're not required text for the course, so we haven't included them in the bookstore. But you can probably get a used copy of a lot of these books. They're older books for somewhere around, I don't know, $7, $8, $9, $10 or something like that. Okay, so and we'll get more into that assignment when we get closer to it. But that's basically what we're looking for is. As we talk about a classic text, we want something that's kind of got some deep substance to it, that's older and so forth. Okay. One thing I want to remind you about is there is an assignment. So observed values and personal reflection. So each student will visit a different church. Okay. Observe and take notes on the experience and complete a 3 to 4 page paper detailing the experience along with the observed values. Okay. The paper should include with a personal reflection that may be prompted off some of the following questions. Okay, what was the experience like? What was easy or hard about attending the church? Was I surprised by anything? Lastly, students should take the last 2 paragraphs discussing how they see an individual's core values relating to not only the study of, but the practice of leadership. Okay, so I want to say this early and up front because you've got to remember that this is an 8-week course. Okay, so 8 weeks, which means that there's only 8 weekends, typically is when our church services are taking place. We've already had 1 weekend pass, so you're looking, and then really the 8th week doesn't have a weekend because the class ends on Friday. So you need to pay attention to the due dates in the syllabus and in Canvas, right? So in the actual weeks. So I want to encourage you, you're probably going to want to do this assignment earlier than later, okay? So when you think about observation of the church service, this absolutely factors into your attendance and participation. So again, going back to you give yourself a score. If you don't do an assignment, you can't get a full score in the participation, right? Because you didn't do everything, right? If you didn't read all of the assigned readings, then you can't get full score in your participation. So you have to actually do everything that is assigned for you in the actual class itself. All right. So if you go back up to click on modules, right? The syllabus refers to them as sessions, but if you click on the modules, go to week 2, and just click on week 2 introduction. Okay, this is the best way to do this. All I want you to focus on is just the content for the specific week that we're in. Okay, so we are in week 2. Focus on week 2. That's it, okay? Don't worry if the due dates seem off or something like that. If there is something that is due in week 2, okay, then it's due in week 2, okay? If you see something, maybe it shows up in week 5, and the due date is May 19th, it's not due May 19th, it's due in week 5, okay? So what I would encourage you, if you have not done so already, is click through every single week, every single module, to make sure you know what's coming, okay? So this week, this module, module 2, learning outcomes, discover why leaders, or you should have discovered at the end of this week, why leaders should know and capitalize on the diverse values of others. And then answering the question, how do you define value? Click on next, okay? We've got week 2 readings, chapters 2 through 3 from Smith, pages 27 through 82. Okay, so I know what I have to read. Then I go to the next one, multimedia, and I have 2 videos to watch from Jamie Smith, discussion guides, actually, 3 videos, one on chapter 2, one on chapter 3, and I almost skipped this one. It's one of my favorite videos. It's the backwards brain bicycle. And if I could show this in every class, I would. And it's a great video, and you'll come to understand probably why it's connected to this specific week, but watch through 3 videos, okay? Then you click on next again, and now you have the topic on brands, okay? So studies show that some brands, you can read through all of this, and there's some questions for you, okay? So now you have your post is due by Wednesday at midnight, okay? You then have to respond to 2 of your classmates. There's only 4 of you in the class, so it's pretty easy. 2 of your classmates by Sunday at midnight, okay? So you've got these requirements. It's all clearly laid out for you there, okay? And then you'll click again. And you can talk about your church, some Christians experience repetition. You can answer these questions again by Wednesday, right? And then you post a response to your peers by Sunday, okay? You've got a journal entry that's talked about, and you can kind of read through the rest of this here, okay? So again, focus just on what's due in the specific week that's assigned. If you have questions, feel free to email, send me a note through Canvas. I am here to support you in any way that I can, and I want you to succeed and just have a great experience in this class. So remember, everything is due no later than Wednesday, and we are all following due dates from here on out. Have a great week.